When I was young, all I wanted to be was a white person. From my perspective, my black skin held no value in comparison to my white counterparts who seemed to be navigating life with ease. Now that I am older, I realize that I was right. People that are white are able to navigate through life with far more ease than I, and that is not my fault. I grew up in a society that upholds white values and Eurocentric ideals of beauty, much like the many people of color that live in the United States. How I feel about myself now, compared to how I felt about myself when I was younger, is due to several turns of events that happened in my life. When I was about 7 years old, my parents moved our family from Baltimore County to central Pennsylvania. And to this day, I attribute that place to the racial stigmatization that I placed on myself. There were only 4 other black families in that neighborhood, and as a result, I was very much isolated from the general population of said neighborhood and from my elementary school. I was very shy to begin with, so when I became aware of how different I was from everyone else, it only made receding into myself that much easier. One memory that comes to mind that I look back on and would still consider one of the most traumatic moments of my young life occurred at a lunch table in elementary school. This particular day at lunch was different from the others because due to my class's bad behavior, we were given assigned seating at lunch. I was seated between 2 boys and across from 3 boys, all white and all very crass, if I remember correctly. When I sat down with my food, not 5 seconds passed and I was barraged with insults. These insults pertained to my intelligence, my body type, my lack of friends, all of which they attributed ultimately to my race. "We're only saying this because you're black," is what I was left with when they finally left me alone and went to recess. I decided to stay inside that day. I came home that day and cried for hours to my parents, who I'm sure were dealing with their own brand of racism that spiraled around us. My mother was the CFO of a manufacturing company in town, and my father commuted an hour every day to work IT for various companies on the East Coast. Even as successful African Americans, they were probably still targets of racism. We moved away from Pennsylvania when I was 12 to Colorado Springs, Colorado, which according to the 2014 Forbes list is the 4th most conservative city in the United States. That being said, the move changed something in me. I felt freer, like I could do more with less judgment based on my race. I was no longer bound by trying to defy the stereotypes that were placed on me, but instead at peace with the ones that truly adhered to me. As a black woman, I am loud, and I do speak my mind when the situation warrants it. I love hip-hop music, and quite frankly, I talk during movies all the time. I get angry, but to me it's justifiable to be a black woman in the United States means being hated for not only your race, but your gender as well, and that can be very hard to deal with in terms of being okay with who you are. From a sociological standpoint, it makes all the sense in the world for minorities and women to be targets of abuse and neglect in our society. Their accomplishments and contributions to society have been continuously stolen and ignored by people in power, and without that recognition, they were doomed to believe that they were truly lesser. This was not an accident, nor do I truly think it was done on purpose, but for white men to maintain a certain level of power, it was imperative for them to create a disparity between race and gender. When those two things coincide, it is far easier to just assume that you are nothing compared to the people that you see running the country. From what I can see now is that this entire narrative about superiority is wrong, not only from a realist standpoint, but from what I've seen in my personal life. My family is filled with some of the most hardworking and intelligent men and women that I know. They have worked in governments, the medical field, the culinary arts, the entertainment industry, and the legal systems throughout the United States. So when I hear from anyone that black people don't contribute positively to society, all I can do is laugh. The world we live in is full of trials and tribulations, and that is okay to me. Nothing about struggling with your identity because of the world we live in is wrong. What is wrong is to let the narrative that is placed on you control your every move, To let it control your life is exactly what the system wants. I, for one, will fight this system until the very end. I love my black skin, and I love being the woman I am, and no one can take that away from me.